Are granny flats the solution to Australia's housing crisis? I'm Beck Reid and I'm a real estate agent here in Sydney. And yesterday I found a great article in The Guardian about granny flats and the potential of easing Australia's housing crisis. Granny flats are an untapped resource to relieve Australia's housing crisis, report says. This article was written by Daisy Dumas and was published on Tuesday, the 17th of October 2020. Research identifies 655,000 suitable homes, including 17.6% of all metro properties in Sydney and 13.2% in Melbourne. Granny flats are an untapped resource that could ease housing pressures in Melbourne, Sydney and Brisbane and provide affordable accommodation for essential workers, a new report has argued. Research published on Tuesday identifies 655,000 existing homes in the capital cities that have space to build a self-contained two-bedroom development on site. The report by Archie Starr, Blackford and CoreLogic says 17.6% of all Sydney metro properties, including the Central Coast, have the potential to house a granny flat. In Melbourne, the figure is 13.2%. More than a third of the potential developments are within 2 kilometres of a train station and 17% have a hospital in the same suburb, the author claims. They say granny flats could provide affordable housing for essential healthcare workers as the national housing market grapples with an undersupply of about 106,300 homes in the next 5 years. The research director at CoreLogic, Tim Lawless, said granny flats could help ease the housing crisis. For policymakers and government, granny flats present an immediate and cost-effective opportunity to deliver much-needed housing supply with existing town planning guidelines, he said. After the Central Coast, Sydney's Northern Beaches and Hornsby were identified as having the most granny flat development opportunities in the metro area. In Melbourne, the report identifies the Mornington Peninsula, Casey and Monash, while in Brisbane, the Brisbane local government areas Logan, Moreton Bay were found to have the most potential. Libby Gregg, a retiree who lives in Sydney's Northern Beaches, has just moved into the granny flat she has built for herself, that her son and his family could move into the main home. I've converted the garage into my bedroom, she says. I live in a flat with enough room for a wheelchair and a bathroom if I need one later on. My son and his family were living up the road, spending an absolute fortune in rent. I'm able to help them. It's worked much better than I thought it would. Alex Mitchell, the managing director of Backyard Granny Flats on the Central Coast, said anything that provides additional affordable housing is a part of the solution, and that councils, in his experience, had no objection to approving granny flats. Professor Nicole Guran, an urban planner at the University of Sydney, co-authored a report of second dwellings in New South Wales this year that found that changes to planning regulations had enabled the growth of an informal rental market. The extent to which granny flats increase supply of low-cost or affordable housing is really unclear, but that's not a reason to not enable people to build them, she said. At the very least, you can increase housing stock, flexible housing and diversity of housing. That said, building granny flats is not the optimal way to increase density in Sydney, Brisbane and Melbourne. It might be part of the solution, but you'd rather go for higher density, more planned approach. Andrew Butt, a professor in sustainability and urban planning at RMIT University in Melbourne, says changes to Victoria's planning process made it easier to obtain permission to build in granny flats, but he questioned their worth in tackling the housing shortage. Second dwellings can meet requirements in terms of build form, he said, but whether that creates the outcomes we want is a concern. Is it an adequate solution for genuine, secure housing forms? So do you agree, disagree? Have you got a block that could potentially develop a granny flat? We manage a lot of granny flats right across our area, and if you would like more information of how this could actually benefit you and the value of your property, get in contact with us. Our details are in the bio, and we'd love to hear any questions or comments. We would be delighted to help you.